This is a story how I got jumped and beaten to a bloody pulp in the middle of my craze while I was at work over some accusation of racism. It's actually a pretty wild story that still, to this day, even though it's 20 years later, still sticks with me and I still think about. It's a real stab in the back. But anyway, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I worked in the suit department at McRae's, which is kind of like a Dillard's in the mall, right? Everybody's familiar with these kind of stores. And so, I don't know, it's just a regular job. I worked there. And on our break, we would go on our smoke break, we'd all go out by the food court, right? And I'd sit out there and I'd smoke my cigarette. I smoked at the time, as often many of us did. Anyway, there was this lady that was the general manager of the cookie place. There was this very small cookie store in the food court, and she managed it. So she would come out now and then. She'd bum a cigarette now and then. I'd bum a cigarette off her. At that time, I didn't have a vehicle. So we became friends, and she would give me a lift home after work when we got off work at the same time, like when we were closing or whatever. And anyway, one of these times, she starts getting friendly, and one day she makes a pass at me. She's a little older. She's a heavier set. And so I was like, I'll let her kiss me, and then I just kind of walked off. The next time she offered me the ride, I was like, that's okay. I got somebody else coming because it was just awkward. And anyway, after that, a few days later, she showed up at the mall. She had her 2 daughters. I never met her daughters, but they're small. And she had this dude with her, like gold teeth, chains, honestly, like in a get-up that was almost clown-like. I mean, I've seen cats come out of jail, prison that weren't as ghetto, like super ghetto. I was like glasses, bandana, like all get-up. So I saw that, I was like, and I just was like, well, that's weird, mismatch. I was like, I guess that's her man or whatever, which was weird to me because obviously I'm thinking she just had hit on me, right? And she had never come before with this dude. But I'm like, whatever. I didn't mind at all, I go back to work, whatever. Anyway, the next day or so, one day I'm out there smoking, chilling on my break. She comes out and she says, hey, do you have a cigarette? So I give her the cigarette. And we're sitting there. So I'm like, hey, so by the way, yes, who was that? And that you came here with? And she's like, well, the other day, it's like Thursday, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, who is that? She's like, that's my fiance. And so I got caught with the snicker. I was like, your fiance? And she's like, yeah, it's my fiance. And I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were engaged. And she's like, yeah, I am. Right at that moment, I'm finishing smoking. So I'm like, put the cigarette. I'm like, all right, well, I'll see you later. And I walk in. Don't think anything of it, right? So go back inside. I get back to work. A couple hours, maybe a couple hours go by. I don't really know the time that went by. But cops show up. I see these cops start walking to my section. I'm like, what in the world's going on? What did I do? I start thinking, what have I done? They come up, they walk up to me. I'm like, hi. And they ask me my name. That's you. And I'm like, okay. They pat me down. I'm like, what's going on? What'd I do? And so we had a report of this person, this lady over there, and they say her name. I'm like, I know who she is. Yeah, she said that you spit in her face. I'm like, spit in her face? What do you mean? What is she saying? She said, yes. She said that you guys were out there smoking together, and that she told you that her boyfriend was black, and you spit in her face. So you're racist, and you spit in her face over that. I was like, oh, my God. I'm like, are you serious? Of course, I don't know if you guys know this, but one of my best friends is actually black. But regardless of that, I've never spit in anybody's face in my entire life, And I work in a suit. I work in the suit department. Can you imagine if I had to spit in everybody's face that was dating a black guy, I wouldn't have no saliva left, because this happened in the deep South in Florida. Anyway, they tell me this. They pat me down, everything, and they're like, well, nobody saw it, so we can't arrest you, but we can. So I'm like, what are they even doing down here? But they're like, well, we did incident report, whatever. And they did, I guess, a warrant check or whatever. No warrants, nothing. So they just leave. Now I'm looking around like everybody at work is looking at this. They come over like, what happened? What happened? I'm like, it's just a misunderstanding. I'm fuming because I'm like, oh my God, why would she call the cops? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if somebody was to make something up, why would they call the cops and make an incident report about it? Like, that's the thing. And everybody looked at me, and the few that I did tell, and, rumors they spread. They didn't really believe me because they're like, well, why would someone call the cops on something like that? So anyway, it bugged me. And I just kept thinking about it. Like, why in the world would she do this? Because I didn't obviously do it. It just didn't make no sense. So anyway, so I keep working. Towards the end of my shift at night, it's dark outside. 3 dudes come in. Like, I'm doing a return. I had a long line of people. We're talking about like 10, 15 people in line. So they want to return. They wanted to switch it out or whatever. So I'm moving over, go into the stock right there at the front doors, and I'm listening around. So I'm looking down. The door's open. 3 dudes come in. I look up and I say, hey, how are you? Welcome to McRae's. If there's anything I could do to help you or whatever the spiel was. Before I could finish the phrase, these 3 dudes are on me, just smack me in the face and just start stomping me, cussing at me, swearing. Boom, 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 boom. For what seemed like forever. I remember the people in line were screaming like, oh, leave him alone, blah, blah, blah. But nobody did nothing. You know, they just threatened them and it kept on going. And then they pulled my wallet out and they ran out. So I'm there like, oh shit. So I just kind of got up. I'm like, all right, crap. I wasn't, I was hurt. I wasn't hurt that bad. I probably had a concussion. Anyway, so security came over, whatever. It wasn't even really, nobody was there. Nobody seemed to care. They called the cops. Cops came over there. Ambulance came. No, ambulance didn't come. Cops came there. I did a report. Some of the people were like, well, one of the guys was swearing at you saying, because I told him it was a robbery. I didn't even think of anything else. And then one of the people that witnessed it said, hey, what he was saying? He was screaming, why did you spit in my girl's face? And I was like, oh, he said that because I didn't even hear that shit. And I'm like, oh, Madonna. And so I was like, well, this girl's lying, said that I spit in the face earlier, so maybe that's connected to what happened. But they did take my wallet, What the hell's going on? So like, okay, well, we'll look into it. And I'm like, what do you mean look into it? You guys need to go talk to her. It's probably her boyfriend lives with her. It has to be connected to that. Then someone actually even in the group said, yeah, the car they hopped into was a white Cadillac, which was the same white Cadillac that she owned. Cops didn't seem pressed about it. Like, okay, we'll go talk to her, whatever. And so I left work early, obviously, because I probably had a concussion. My head was killing me. So I leave. Come to find out the whole thing, like nothing happened. Nothing became of it. And I quit. I stopped going to that job because I would go to work and had to see her ass there. Nothing became of it. And it always burned me that, I never did anything about it. But, I went to the investigators and stuff and they didn't give a shit. I wasn't dead. I wasn't severely injured. Nobody cared. The fact that she would lie about this, like, think about it. I wasn't even mad at the dude that much. Like, of course I was, but I wasn't. Like, he was deceived. Like, to let a woman manipulate you to the point where you risk doing something to send you in prison, and she's completely lying. And she's a mother of 2. Sat there and looked at him and convinced him to go out and commit a felony over a lie to protect her what? Her pride? Like, that's the real thing. Like, if you think, well, maybe you shouldn't have snickered. It's like, honest to God, it had nothing to do with the color of the guy. It was the get up. The guy looked like a clown. But bigger than that, I snickered because 2 days before she was hitting on me, trying to make a pass at me in the car. That's the real reason I laughed. Because she didn't say this is my new boyfriend or something. No, she said that's my fiance. So obviously she's trifling. And that's all I did was snicker. Nothing else. I didn't say anything derogative or anything else. And to this day, this lady is living her life somewhere out there, having lied like that. I mean, that's the kind of shit that gets people killed one way or the other, I swear. But anyway, I'm married. I'm doing well for myself. I got a family. So it's in the past, but it always stuck with me. It stuck with me how she lied, bald-faced, over something so trivial. And then just how nobody helped. And that's the reality. If it messes with you because like you can be somewhere that looks well put together, store, nothing's happening, and people can just run in and beat the shit out of you. People can just run in and ransack the place. There can be an extreme hit of violence in a moment's notice. Like, you think that there's law and order, but there's not. You think that you're safe, but you never realize how unsafe you are at any point in your life. When something like that happens, it just reminds you. Like, it reminds you, people can just kick down that door, can they just rush in, and the cops are not going to do nothing about it. Cops are not going to do it. Like, nobody can protect you. This is why the First Amendment is a very important thing, And I understand people who, are hardcore about it. Stuff like this happens to you, God forbid. I don't know. But anyway, that's my story. What do you guys think about it? I don't know if I told it as eloquent. It's at the end of the day. I'm tired. But I figure I'll throw it out there. It's a long time ago, and it's just something I still think about it. And it's like I said, it sucks because nobody would ever believe me. Nobody would ever believe me. Like, you say, no, I didn't spit in the face. Like, well, why? Why would she do a police report? And then why would she tell them? Why all of those escalation over a snicker? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it was a snicker. Maybe it was the rejection. Maybe it was a lot of things. I don't know. I was a kid. I was a kid. I was a teenager, for the love of Christ. She was probably 32, 33 years old. I don't know. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. As always, buy red, sell green.